Greetings, transit workers. Greetings to all. Welcome to another installment of Transit Workers for Fighting Unions 5-point program. At this time, we're going to talk about the question of Tier 6, which is undoubtedly one of the most burning issues in our union, which is now largely comprised of Tier 6 members. So I'm going to read that point here. Abolish Tier 6. Everyone in top tier now. The tier system screws newer workers, pits us against each other, and destroys union bargaining power. Equal pay for equal work. Upgrade Tier 6 to Tier 4 now. Fight for a 2050 non-contributory pension for all. That is a very compelling point that's made right there. I do want to say that there is a lot of videos out there on YouTube or various platforms that describe all the various things that are wrong with Tier 6. So we don't feel like we have to reinvent the wheel here. To make a long story short, Tier 6 means that the new hires and people falling under Tier 6 have to pay a considerable amount more money into their pension and into a worse pension than Tier 4 members. You will see right now in all the crew rooms, all the leaflets from the various opposition and the incumbents, they're going to talk all this talk about reforming Tier 6, or the other one, abolish the overtime cap on Tier 6. But no one puts forward a coherent strategy as to how to fight this system of tiers. When they say that stuff, what it means is they're actually accepting the system of tiers. They're accepting that this is just the way things go in labor. And they rely on the same failed strategy of lobbying politicians up in Albany. And here is a fact, a straight up fact. It's the Democratic Party that waged this huge attack on labor. And please think about that right now when you're having all these union reps and the incumbents or the opposition pushing you to vote for the Democratic Party when they're the ones that waged this attack. So having said this, I'm going to leave the floor to the candidates, Richie and Tom. Take it away.
Hey everybody, I'm Richard. So I think it's important to start with the point of view that we kind of share, which is that pensions aren't something that are gifted to you after you've worked your life. Pensions are actually deferred income. They're what are owed to you after you've given them the best years of your life and they squeezed you like a lemon, and then you're left to kind of fend for yourself afterwards as a pensioner in your older age. So that being said, we're outraged that we have tier systems in our industry, and also in the work in different industries throughout the United States. It's an issue as well. Having a tiered system is a violation for a very basic principle of equal pay for equal work. So because we have tiers, I'm working next to somebody that does the exact same thing that I do for less money. And what that does is that it undermines our ability to unify, to fight for the things that we both need. So on the E-Board and Transit Workers for a Fighting Union, we're starting from a determination. We are determined not to let another tier happen again. Whether it's through legislation or through a contract negotiation procedure, we do not want it to ever happen again because it has such a corrosive effect. We are for equal pay for equal work. And another thing that's important to remember as well is when it comes to struggling against tiered systems, it's not unique to us as well. There have been other industries that have been mobilized. Thousands of workers have been compelled to engage in some sort of struggle against tiered systems in their own industries. So, UPS, for example, they were struggling against they called them part-timers, fellow UPS workers who had no benefits, who were working next to, Teamsters. That was the tier system in their industry. The UAW, the United Auto Workers Union, they engaged in a strike, and a big issue in their strike was a tiered system for not just pensions, but also wages. And how it ended there is I think that they still have the pension tier. They got rid of the wage tier, or they made some they made some strides to address the wages, but and then now more recently you have the Boeing strikers, the machinists, who are also addressing tiers in their industry. So it is possible to struggle against it. The real obstacle to struggling against it is a question of leadership. How are you going to fight against it? Who are your allies? Who are your enemies? And that's what we hope to bring into the executive board and hope to win people over on that basis to fight against Tier 6 on that strategy. But I think Tom has a bit more to say about our industry and our history with Tier 6.
That's exactly right, Richie. Yeah, we went on strike in 2005 precisely to push back an attempt by MTA management to saddle us with another tier. And all the workers who were involved in that strike are going to remember that quite clearly. How do these betrayals happen? How do you get saddled with the Tier 6? Well, late, I think it was about 3 in the morning in March of 2012, Democratic Governor Andrew Cuomo released legislation to the public view about a new tier system that would increase costs and create an inferior pension tier and save the state billions and billions of dollars. That legislation was passed by a Democratic-controlled assembly only a couple of hours later. A few labor leaders in the state grumbled, but because, as Eddie said, their AFL-CIO bureaucracy is so tied to the Democratic Party, there was no serious struggle against that tier. And then we've had this sort of bad joke of fixing Tier 6 for now over a decade. And it's really a terrible situation. Of course, the bosses in this country want to get rid of pensions altogether. And I'm glad Richie made the point. For us, it's just deferred income. It's something we've worked all our lives for. And we can't allow these kinds of givebacks to happen again. In our own industry, we do have several other low-level tiers. We have these givebacks for people have to work longer to get to top pay. We have inferior vacations. And the bosses are simply going to go to this time and time again to try to cut costs, increase exploitation, and drive down the unions. It also means as soon as you're saddled with a new tier, the higher tier can't ask for anything anymore. And we also want to emphasize that everyone deserves a better pension. The gold standard back when I was hired in the 90s was to fight for a 2050 pension. That's 20 years of service, and you get to retire at 50 years of age with a full pension. And we think it should be non-contributory, and we think it should be a pension that you can live on and have benefits like medical benefits, preserve those benefits, because we are working under terrible, terrible conditions. And, I think we've covered some of the main points on the tiers, but we're the only people that say down with all tiers. Isn't that right, Richie?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, as we say in our leaflet, it undermines our ability, our bargaining power, our bargaining position for that reason, because now it's and it has that purpose too. In addition to saving the state billions of dollars, saving the bosses billions of dollars, it has an explicit purpose to keep us divided, to keep us at each other's throat. And what Tom said about not being able to ask for anything ever again, it's because if the higher tier ever did, the boss would just be like, you're the chosen one. Why are you complaining? We have this guy doing your job for less. And we think that that's wrong. And it's in the interest of everybody, not just Tier 6, including Tier 4, to fight against tiers. It's in all of our interest, in this industry and in all industries. So,
wow. I think that's a lot of food for thought. I think it's very clear that TW Local 100 is in a position to set the standard for the fight against Tier 6. It's just the question of leadership that people must consider. That's why when those leaflets come on out, you got to check out Tom and Richie. And with that, we're going to conclude this session. Please stay tuned for upcoming videos. Again, Transit Workers for a Fighting Union, Abolish Tier 6.